All right, so without a doubt, Star Wars has some of the most popular fictional characters in modern cinematic history. But it also has some of the most forgettable characters in cinematic history. So, give or take, some are going to boil up to the top. But one of the ones that I think it's pretty obvious is extremely popular is Boba Fett, which is why you get action figures of Boba Fett constantly. And it's really interesting to see how Hasbro more or less finds as many decos as they can to repaint Boba Fett in, because when a toy sells, yeah, you want to sell it in different colors. It's called a refresh. Now, beyond Boba Fett, the whole Mandalorian subculture, or actually culture, it is a full culture. Just check out the Our Mandalorian's Jewish video I did. I'll link it at the end. But yes, what started off as just Boba Fett's armor today is a much bigger part of the Star Wars universe. But it remains that sculpt, the original sculpt for Boba Fett, Hasbro continues, and rightly so, to pump it out in as many colors as possible, especially when they are legitimate characters and they're not just, doing, battle damage or holiday. What's interesting is looking at the history of Boba Fett. Going back to his original designs, he has actually had more designs, more deco, more variation than almost any other character. Yet for how popular he is, he gets very, very few sculpts. Looking at the original prototype version of Fett, which a lot of us know from the action figures, like the all-white version that maybe he was originally linked to the Stormtroopers, which actually turned out he was. Even that version went through a lot and didn't get colorized till very, very late in the game. So, yeah, we've had a lot of all-white Boba Fetts, but it tends to just be a repaint of the actual cinema version of his outfit. So taking an existing figure and just repainting it in another color works for kids, but for collectors who want authenticity, to do a truly authentic Boba Fett in any of his prototype armors, and there's a lot of them, it requires an original sculpt, or at least a lot of new parts, because it's not just a redeco of the outfit he wore in Empire Strikes Back and Jedi, which is why you also saw a lot of these helmets show up in things like Clone Wars. I think even Ezra wears one of them in Rebels. So you do see these elements shown up, but we haven't seen them put together as a prototype type Boba Fett. I mean, you could do an entire box set of all of the different versions that were created, and a lot of them are redecos of prototype Boba Fett, not taking the Empire Strikes Back tool and repainting it white. So if Hasbro did invest in a proper prototype Boba Fett body, there are quite a few variants that they'd be able to do. Versus, again, just taking the movie version. You can see the prototype has a lot of differences. Look at the top of his missile there with kind of that spike. It's also one of the funnier jokes is the fact that he actually wore a towel as his cape. And Sideshow even did that on one of their variants. It'd be great to see. I'd love to see that in 3 3/4. All right. Now, one of the other things when we're talking about Boba Fett repaints, and here's a 6-inch version painted to look like the original toy. That original toy was based on the parade version of Boba Fett, which is why he's a lot more colorful. The original Kenner action figure compared to how he looks in Empire Strikes Back or even Return of the Jedi. So this parade in Modesto, which had a much more colorful adaptation of the armor, as well as the on the helmet, the bantha eyes or whatever they were. Now this version has been done as a toy, but not in 3 3/4 or even in 6-inch. And even though it inspired the original 3 3/4 figure, again, why that figure is so colorful, because it's not based on Empire, it's based on the look from the parade. So is the 12-inch figure, which, pointing out on this 12-inch, by the way, take a note of those spikes on his jetpack, which is why, in He-Man, that guy has spikes on his jetpack. All right, that's a whole other YouTube video on the He-Man prototypes. So, but yeah, I'd love to see those details, those, like the spikes on the top of the missile. Going back to that Modesto parade deco, I mentioned that it has been done as a figure, just not in 3 3/4 or 6-inch. And honestly, I like to brag about this one. What can I say? When I was at Jack's over the Big Figs line, this was a figure that I really pushed for. And honestly, I deliberately wanted to do a deco that Hasbro had never done. Now, that was like 10 years ago at this point. I can't believe we haven't gotten this since then. I mean, it's basically a figure that's like almost the vintage Kenner figure, but not. It's a unique deco. It would be great. And I'm glad that, we have a 12-inch version out there. It's one of I keep it on my shelf. I'm very proud of this. It was definitely a, hey, it was like a dare to Hasbro, like, hey, you make this. So, like I said, there's been a lot of variations, and a lot of them are not direct redecos the way it has been treated by multiple companies, not just Hasbro. And it boggles the mind how many variants there could be with new tooling. The original prototype toy, which, is part of pop culture history, actually would require a unique sculpt as well, or at least some new parts. You can see, it even had fewer, deco hits, but brighter colors, and even stood a little taller. So this would be a great action figure to own as well, but you couldn't make this really with a direct repaint because it's slightly different, and it would require tooling and investment. I wouldn't want to see this as just a repaint of the movie version. I would want to see all of these Boba Fetts treated as a unique tool. I mean, if we can get a unique tool for, these crazy Cantina aliens, Moma Nadone, Laxavac, or what if we just took the existing tool and did the all-gray version? That's an easy redeco. I mean, they've already done prototype, quote-unquote, versions where, whatever color is in the machine gets squirted out. That's why that happens. So there's still plenty of Boba Fetts that can be done as straight redecos. But the majority, when you dig deep into the development of the character and the development of the armor, would require unique tooling. Repainting the movie one in white, like we've gotten by so many different companies, it's not quite right because it's not just a direct repaint. All right, I've saved kind of my favorite two for the last. The Boba Fett that I wanted my whole life is kind of the Man with No Name version, which is, again, this was an early concept, but it was always the idea that Boba Fett was based on the Clint Eastwood character from, For a Few Dollars More and, the spaghetti westerns. So that's why he had the poncho like that, which is also why Mando has it. Now, there is was it Sideshow that did this? Someone did a bust. I'm sorry, I forget which company. But, this made it all the way up into the Ralph McQuarrie illustrations for Empire. And this was actually, this painting that I saw as a child was what made me want that Boba Fett. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. He looks like a stormtrooper, and he's got like a poncho thing going on. So you could take, again, that version and repaint that in so many, like every time you do it like you did, if you do like, a new Boba Fett prototype, you could repaint that in a lot. The other one is, we know that behind the scenes figures often get made of directors. George Lucas, San Diego Comic-Con brought us a Steven Spielberg figure. Is that, I think, the first Steven Spielberg figure ever? It could possibly be. Anyway, another YouTube video for another time. So how cool would it be to get a Joe Johnson Boba Fett prototype 2-pack where he's designing the armor and fitting it onto... actually, no, he's in the armor, isn't he? Is that just a techie with him? I can't remember. Maybe you guys know. All right, either way, I think that would be an awesome 2-pack for San Diego Comic-Con. I can't remember if he's in the armor in that shot. I think he is. I think, yeah, he was the model. All right, either way, yeah. Let me know. What do you guys think? Do we need more tooling to make more prototype Boba Fetts? I think so. And the redecoing opportunities? Like printing your own money, Hasbro.